The feud for the Iron Throne sent tremors through the Seven Kingdoms, threatening to break the bonds of fellowship that held many of the great houses together. Some houses lost their leading members, some committed horrific deeds, and some turned against each other in bitter suspicion. But House Tyrell stayed together. Led by a shrewd old woman and her bumbling son, but championed by their influential children and grandchildren, the Tyrells scrambled to stake their claim. While some of its heirs took more prominent positions than others, one specific child of the Reach played an overlooked and underappreciated role, and did so without complaint. This was Garlan Tyrell. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Exploring Fiction. The second son to the Lord of Highgarden and his wife, Sir Garlan Tyrell was given the nickname the Gallant by his older brother. But unlike many warriors in Westeros, who are often named and remembered for their worst qualities, Sir Garlan lived up to his epithet. From riding into battle as the ghost of a fallen king, for which he received no personal glory, to serving his kingdom and his family with the stoicism and selflessness of a true knight, Garlan Tyrell really was gallant. So, who exactly is Garlan Tyrell, and why is he such an interesting character? Let's explore. Garlan Tyrell was born in the year 277 AC in Highgarden to Lord Mace Tyrell and his wife, Lady Allery Hightower. He had 3 siblings, an older brother, Willis, a younger brother of 5 years, Sir Loras, the Knight of Flowers, and a younger sister, Lady Marjorie. Garlan grew up surrounded by his family in Highgarden, and at some point in his youth was dubbed the Gallant by Willis in order to prevent him from receiving a more unseemly nickname further on in his life. Once he came of age, Garlan was married to Lady Leonette Fossaway. Garlan was tall and broad-shouldered, with the brunette hair common for members of his house. He also possessed a bushy brown beard, greatly contrasting him to his clean-shaven brother, Sir Loras. And distinguishing him further still from the Knight of Flowers, Sir Garlan sought no glory, and he garnered much less fame than his younger brother, as they both trained to be formidable knights. Garlan's skill with a sword was unquestionable, and he was often found training against multiple enemies at a time, so as to prepare himself for the reality of war. When he achieved knighthood and chose his own coat of arms, Garlan simply altered the insignia of his own house, adding a second golden rose on the green field to depict his status as a second son. Yet, he wasn't bitter about his fate, but lived only for the honor and well-being of his family. Sir Garlan Tyrell makes his first appearance in the current tale of A Song of Ice and Fire near the end of the second volume, A Clash of Kings. After Renly Baratheon is murdered by his conniving brothers Stannis and the Red Priestess Melisandre, the majority of his forces join the upstart king from Dragonstone. However, the most loyal houses, including House Tyrell, retreat back to the Reach to nurse their wounds and mourn their fallen monarch. There they stay until Lord Tywin Lannister comes calling. For Stannis makes to topple King's Landing itself and claim the Iron Throne in a swift and decisive victory. The Tyrells enter into an alliance with the Lannisters, and march for the capital to thwart the man who murdered their king in cold blood. Sir Garlan rides with the rest of his family at the head of the company, and when they arrive at King's Landing, the Battle of the Blackwater has already begun, but Garlan debatably plays the most important part. He dons the armor of the perished Renly Baratheon, and leads the crown troops' charge, striking existential terror into the hearts of King Stannis' men, especially those who switched their allegiance. Garlan is dubbed Renly's ghost due to the battle, and it is his charge that turns the tide of the fight. What's more, he bests and kills Sir Gyard Morrigan in single combat, one of Renly's former Rainbow Guard. When the day is won, Garlan even bears the honor of introducing his sister Margaery to the King Joffrey Baratheon. And the boy immediately agrees to marry her and abandon his former betrothal to Sansa Stark. In A Storm of Swords, Garlan Tyrell remains in King's Landing with the rest of his family, keeping an eye on his enemies, but keeping a closer eye on his friends. Due to the prowess he displayed in the Battle of the Blackwater, he is named Lord of Brightwater Keep, the seat of House Florent. Later, during the wedding of Sansa Stark to the newly marred imp Tyrion Lannister, Garlan dances with the bride. Most of the Tyrell family avoids her, especially after their attempt to wed her to the heir to Highgarden, Loyalists Tyrell, had failed, but Garlan joins her anyway. He assures her that the marriage to Tyrion is not as crushing as it seems, and that he is, despite his appearance and reputation, a good man. Though Sansa cannot fathom such a claim, Garlan even admits that she may be happier with Tyrion than she could ever be with Loras. But Sansa's wedding is not the only matrimonial ceremony he attends in King's Landing, for Garlan is also present with his wife Lyanette at the wedding of his sister Margaery to King Joffrey Baratheon. During the celebration, he lauds Tyrion for his show of valor during the Battle of the Blackwater, praising the imp when most others seemingly forget the small man's big deeds. Garlan also scolds Joffrey for publicly destroying his uncle's wedding gift, again being one of the few individuals to defend Tyrion. Yet, his scorn toward Joffrey does not stop Garlan from attempting to save the boy while he chokes to death. However, Garlan and the others are unsuccessful, and Joffrey perishes on what should have been one of the greatest days of his young life. Joffrey's brother Tommen is promptly crowned king, and when the Kingsguard are all occupied, the duty of protecting the Patriarch of the realm falls onto the shoulders of the second son of Highgarden. Sir Garlan Tyrell next appears in A Feast for Crows, and he has now vacated King's Landing to return to the Reach. He marches with half the Tyrell army for Brightwater Keep, which is now his by right due to his actions during the Battle of the Blackwater. Yet Sir Colin Florent has staked his own claim to the seat. However, before the civil conflict can escalate any further, Garlan hears tell of the rogue Ironborn capture of the Shield Islands, and instead calls upon the forces of the Reach to take back their coastal land from the seafaring savages. But back in King's Landing, his sister Margaery falls victim to the plots of Queen Regent Cersei Lannister, and when she calls for Garlan to represent her in a trial by combat, the request is strictly denied. So, Garlan Tyrell marches through the Reach, intent on reclaiming the stolen land of his Bannerlords, while the rest of his family faces equal but opposite peril in the capital of the realm. Across the span of the entire story thus far, Garlan Tyrell has been one of the few individuals who has been as gallant in action as in name. Lauded by friend and foe alike for his skills in combat, he first demonstrates his prowess at the Battle of the Blackwater. But those who meet him in battle haven't a clue that they are facing Garlan Tyrell, for they believe they stand before the reincarnated form of King Renly Baratheon. And even after the battle, when Garlan is free to proclaim the truth of his deeds, he does not boast, letting those who figure out the ploy spread the word for him. Once tensions settle in the capital, he remains as noble as ever, offering advice and condolences to the stricken Sansa Stark, and then guarding the Boy King after his brother falls to a twisted plot. Though his appearances in the narrative are sparse, Sir Garlan Tyrell displays his gallant nature throughout them all. Unlike the Kingsguard in their spotless white garb, or the other highborn with their extravagant reputations and ill-suited monikers, Garlan actually earns the right to be known as the Gallant by his defense of those less fortunate than he, and his willingness to put his life in danger to save those he serves and loves. While the Tyrell lands and alliance to the crown both teeter on the brink of collapse and ruin, Sir Garlan remains the family's staunchest hope, even if he is overlooked for those with more renown. Dishonest men were as common in Westeros as beggars and ruffians on the streets of Flea Bottom, but honest individuals with noble hearts were few and far between. Sir Garlan Tyrell, though not as famous as his younger brother Sir Loras, was one of those men. In every instance he was thrust into a prominent role, he showed it. From leading the Lannister Tyrell charge at the Battle of the Blackwater, to empathizing with a downtrodden maiden, to guarding the king himself, Garlan not once displayed the hideous selfishness and cunning common in so many Westerosi knights. Instead, he was gallant, making him worthy of a name. So, that's all I've got for this video. Leave a comment with your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new here. I'd love to have you. Visit my website, russelawellsauthor.com, for exclusive reviews, fiction, and more, and sign up for my mailing list for free exclusive content. The links for both are in the description below. And, like always, I will see you next time.